The VR and XR field has been packed with competing devices over the past couple of years. Meta is constantly trying to make VR work, even though most people don't seem to care, while Apple made an attempt but didn't go far with Apple Vision Pro. These are the Viture XR Pro glasses. They promise an immersive viewing experience whether you're gaming, watching movies, or getting work done. With a lightweight design and a sharp image from edge to edge, they certainly seem impressive on paper. But do they deliver on their promise? Let's find out. Viture sent me these glasses around December of last year, but I want to take my time and thoroughly test them out before sharing my thoughts. And of course, it goes without saying they have no influence over this review. This is something I always make clear from the get-go. Some immediately cut off communication when I mentioned that, but to their credit, Viture had no issue with it. So let's see what these glasses are all about. First off, I have to congratulate the designer who worked on the packaging because it's extremely well done. It reminds me of the great unpacking experience we had with Apple products in the 80s, 90s, and early aughts. What matters though is the actual product, so let's have a closer look. The glasses are chunkier than regular sunglasses, but overall they're light, so you're not going to notice the weight at all. Even though they look bulky, they won't bother you. They come with several nose tips, and I suggest trying them all out since they play a crucial role in how well you'll be able to see the screen. You can also choose to wear the glasses without any tips if none of them fit you. I went with tip number 2, but it's not a perfect fit. I'm somewhere between sizes 1 and 2. This means I have to adjust the position of the glasses to ensure all parts of the screen are sharp and readable. Thankfully, the community has stepped up and created a custom tip specifically for that in-between size. But aside from that, what exactly can we do with these glasses? There are several different use cases, some more useful than others, but overall, Viture tried to pack the product with as much functionality as possible. The main reason you would want to get these is for media consumption, whether that's watching a movie, playing a game, or browsing through your photo gallery. I tried using them for productivity, either as a single monitor or an extended desktop, but for that purpose, they're not ideal. We're gonna go through the details in a little bit, but I would say even though you can make it work, it's not the same as just having a nice high-res monitor right in front of you. When it comes to video consumption, one of the standout features is the ability to watch content in 3D, even if it wasn't originally designed for it. The 2D to 3D conversion is generally quite good. It's not always perfect, especially with photos where you have more time to notice imperfections, but it helps solve the issue of constantly having to search for native 3D content. You can pair the glasses with almost any device: PCs, Macs, tablets, phones, and consoles. There are some limitations though. For example, I had no problem using the glasses with my M2 iPad Pro, but I couldn't use them with the iPhone 14 Pro because of the Lightning port. According to Viture, the Lightning to USB-C adapter doesn't support 3D. Some consoles also have limitations. Pretty much everything will work except for the Nintendo Switch. To use it, you'll need a separate piece of hardware, and then it will work with the glasses just fine. So before buying, make sure your device is on the compatibility list. Chances are you won't run into any issues, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about what the device does well, and then we'll cover the things I didn't like as much. First and foremost, the displays are really good. It's impossible to show you in a clear way, but when I put on the glasses for the first time, I was genuinely impressed. Maybe it's because I had zero expectations, but the image is clear, sharp, and bright. No matter the environment, you won't have any trouble seeing the screen. The glasses operate in 2 modes. The first one is the transparency mode, where you can see both your surroundings and the screen at the same time. In the other mode, you press a button and the front of the glasses black out, completely blocking your surroundings. Obviously, in this mode there are no distractions, making the image very clear and easy to see. Your peripheral vision isn't entirely blocked, but that's due to the shape of the glasses rather than the hardware. Even in transparency mode though, I could still see the image perfectly fine. I have a very bright apartment and I had no issue seeing what was on the screen. The brightness of the displays and the quality of the image is that good. Another feature I really like is the ability to adjust the glasses for your vision without needing a custom prescription frame, at least to a certain extent. At the top of the glasses there are two knobs that allow you to fine-tune the focus for myopia. According to Viture, this works by adjusting the distance of the virtual image relative to the user. 0D means the image appears 20 meters away, while 2D brings it closer to about 0.5 meters. Adjusting the focus is quick and I was able to get a sharp, clear image in no time. In case though your vision goes beyond the limits of the device, they do sell prescription frames that clip onto the glasses. Keep in mind that you won't be able to wear your own. My glasses are pretty thin, but I can't wear them underneath. So if the built-in knobs aren't enough for you, you'll have to get the prescription frames. Having these knobs also means you can easily share the glasses with a friend without much hassle. It would have been great if there was an option to save individual profiles, allowing each user to switch to their settings without having to fiddle with the knobs every time. However, I understand that implementing this would likely require adding more components to the glasses. A missed opportunity though is the lack of proper labeling on the knobs for easier fine-tuning. While they do have these small dots, the text around the knob always reads -5D, so you can't simply return to your previous setting by adjusting the knobs. You have to actually wear the glasses. At first I thought this was just an issue with my unit, but after checking Viture's website, I saw that all their images also show the knobs always labeled as -5D. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but at least adjusting them isn't a time-consuming process. Another feature I really like is the ability to have built-in audio without needing headphones. The glasses have these small speakers on each side and they work surprisingly well. Of course, the sound quality won't match a good pair of headphones, but if you just want to watch something quickly, the built-in speakers will do the job. When it comes to native 3D content, these glasses are easily one of the best ways to experience it. There are several different types of 3D files, but the best format is the one that provides a separate image for each eye. If you can find a file that doesn't have a squeezed aspect ratio, that's even better. And if the file has a high enough bitrate, the image will look absolutely wonderful. Watching 3D movies with the glasses is better than any 3D movie I've ever seen in a cinema. The brightness is a lot better than even the best IMAX theater I've been to, and you also don't have to deal with the mediocre experience of the typical red and blue glasses. I've watched Dune Part 1, Toy Story 4, and Avatar this way, and they all look fantastic. But even if you don't have the 3D version of a movie and just use the automatic 2D to 3D conversion, you will still get a solid 3D effect. I tested this with the 2D version of Toy Story 4 and I did get a good 3D separation. It wasn't as pronounced as the actual 3D movie, but to be honest, I didn't really mind that. Movies aside, one thing I really enjoyed was going through my regular photos and using the automatic 3D conversion. I did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. It was a lot of fun seeing some bland 2D photos I took years ago take a new life because of the 3D effect. Nature and architecture work really well, and the same goes for portraits. There are some limitations with the automatic 3D conversion, but the cool thing is that if you have an iPhone 15 or 16, you can already shoot in 3D, and those images will look amazing with the glasses. Since they don't need conversion, you'll get the best possible result. For example, this video was shot with the iPhone 16 Pro. It doesn't look like much in 2D, but in 3D, the sense of depth you get is incredible. What's great about Apple's approach to 3D is that your files remain fully viewable whether you have a 3D capable device or not. You can watch the same image or video on a monitor or tablet and it will look like a normal 2D file. But when displayed on a 3D compatible device, you will get the extra depth information. Now that I've seen how good the effect is, I would even go as far as saying that if you have an iPhone that can shoot spatial photos and videos, you should default to that mode. Of course, file sizes will be larger, but in the future, when mixed reality glasses become mainstream, your photos and videos will be ready to go. When it comes to video, Apple's spatial format is limited to 30 FPS, so in some cases, motion can look a little bit choppy. But overall, the image quality and 3D effect are truly impressive. So, to sum up, the main things that the Viture glasses do right. They have great image, they're perfect for media consumption, and they're really good for 3D content. Now, let's talk about some of the things I don't like about them. Even though this might not sound like a big deal, it was actually quite a bit annoying for me. It has to do with the shape of the glasses and the fact that my peripheral vision wasn't blocked. This doesn't affect the image quality at all. It's just that you're constantly being distracted by your environment. So if you're in a bright room and you have people moving around you, or the lighting of the room changes, you will notice everything, and probably because they happen in your periphery, you're more alert with what's happening around you. This is definitely something I would like to see improved in the next version of the glasses. That would probably mean we will end up with douchier looking glasses, but let's be honest, we're already wearing a thick frame with cables hanging out the side, so adjusting the shape a little bit wouldn't make a huge difference. Another thing I would like to see improved is the screen size. The current size isn't bad by any means, but I would have preferred a wider field of view. That would help create the feeling of watching a large immersive screen. Right now, I don't really get the huge screen effect. It just feels like I'm watching a regular sized monitor. Which brings us to content, and more specifically, 3D content. This isn't really a hardware issue, but I'm mentioning it so you have all the information needed to make an informed decision. There are two main problems here. The first one is finding high quality 3D content, and the other one is finding good software to watch it with. Let's take YouTube as an example. Even though there are several 3D videos in the platform, you'll have varying levels of success with them. First off, not every one of them is made by a professional, so the majority of them will look really bad. And then there's the matter of bitrate. YouTube is not known for its use of high bitrates, so watching 3D content with low bitrate is not going to be a good experience. I would say if you find a 3D video on YouTube with 2K resolution, just do yourself a favor and skip it entirely. It's not going to look great, especially if it's shot by an amateur. Instead, try to find a 4K video. That's when you'll start getting a better experience. As far as 3D movies go, you will have a great time watching them, but again, it depends on the type of file and the bitrate. If your file is the type that has the squeezed images for each eye, you need to make sure that you have an application that does the de-squeezing correctly. Otherwise, the aspect ratio will be all wrong. Faces will look too thin or too wide, and architecture could appear stretched or compressed, and so on and so forth. Some apps like VLC have a de-squeeze option, but it doesn't get it quite right. It looks 80% there, but the image is still not right. OPlayer allows you to get a custom aspect ratio, but even then it's not perfect. And honestly, even if it was, having to Google the correct aspect ratio before watching a movie is just annoying. The alternative is to watch the regular 2D version and rely on the automatic 3D conversion, but that comes with its own set of limitations. First off, you'll need the Spacewalker app for that. That's all fine and good, but from my testing, the app doesn't override your device's sleep settings. This means that if you turn off your screen, playback will stop. This doesn't happen with VLC or OPlayer, so Having to keep a 13-inch screen on for 2 hours while watching something on the glasses feels like a waste. Another issue I had with the Spacewalker app might not affect everyone, but it was definitely a problem for me. The app isn't optimized for tablets, so while you can run it on an iPad, the experience isn't great. Everything is locked to portrait mode, which means that if you're using your tablet in landscape, you'll have a hard time controlling the interface. Swiping up and down is interpreted as left and right translates to up and down. On top of that, the interface isn't designed for a large screen. The playback controls appear right in the middle of the screen, which makes sense for a 6-inch phone in portrait mode, but it's not ideal for a 13-inch tablet. The other thing I've noticed with the automatic 3D conversion, and especially with YouTube videos, is the fact that the resolution drops to a lower quality. So if you're watching a nice crisp 4K video and you turn on the 3D conversion, you will immediately notice the difference. It's not a deal breaker, but it's noticeable. However, with 2K videos, I didn't notice any drop in quality. For photos, there's no degradation, which makes sense because it's just a single image. The other thing to keep in mind here is that the automatic 3D conversion doesn't always get things right. The main problem has to do with the masking of the individual objects. The system cannot always detect perfectly where one object ends and another one begins, so you will notice some weird edges around the objects. Think of it as a Photoshop selection that is not perfectly clean. This won't happen all the time, but in images where you have a lot of things going on, the system will get confused. The other thing I've noticed is that the system doesn't always achieve the optimal depth effect. For example, in this image, all the tree trunks in the foreground are correctly separated, giving us a nice depth effect, but then the rest of the image is treated as one plane. So the entire background ends up looking like a backdrop from a photographer's studio. It's kind of funny when you stumble on these things, but it's definitely not how I would expect the photo to look. It's not a big deal, and if you shoot spatial photos and videos, you won't have the issue at all. But for older media, you will notice this from time to time. Now, the last thing I want to mention is using the glasses as a virtual multi-screen setup. The idea is that you can have multiple screens side by side without needing physical monitors. While this is technically possible, the 2K resolution becomes a limiting factor really fast. I tried a 3-screen setup with Cinema 4D on one screen and a couple of other apps on the others, but all the small UI elements and the viewport became too noisy and hard to read. To compensate, you can choose to bring the screen closer, but then it feels like you're looking through a pinhole camera. You constantly have to move your head around to see different parts of the screen. So even though the idea of multiple virtual screens sounds great, in practice it doesn't work very well. I wanted to show you how all this looks because in the desktop version of Spacewalker I can screen record what I'm seeing, but unfortunately the app glitched out and none of these features work for me anymore. At this point I can only use the glasses with my computer as an extra monitor. So yeah, as you can see, these glasses aren't really designed for productivity, even though the software technically supports it. So what is my final verdict for the glasses? Should you get them or not? The hardware is capable, but the software, which in most cases is not needed, needs work. So my suggestion depends on what you plan to do with them. If it's for productivity to extend your desktop, definitely not. If it's for entertainment, it's worth considering, but only if you feel that the screen you're already using is not enough. For 3D viewing, it's an easy yes, but again, only if you have the content for it. For me, this was the most exciting area and something I would like to explore more, either by shooting videos and photos with Apple's spatial mode or by creating 3D animations and images with Cinema 4D. And I think that about covers everything. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.